Hi, everybody. Welcome to Grade 11 University Math. The intent of today's lesson is just to give you an opportunity to knock off some rust, to kind of get back into shape, get rid of the cobwebs, however you want to think of it. This is going to be a very, very quick algebraic review. So you notice the title on today, we got our polynomial review. We're going to go through, we're going to simplify some expressions, we're going to solve some equations. We're going to do the tiniest of factoring. The intent again today is just to get back into shape with some of this material. So, what you see on the screen, there are 3 problems. I'm going to ask you throughout our videos to go through and pause it quite often. And during those pauses, I'd like you to try all of these problems on your own. Okay, through that action of attempting them on your own, what we're doing is we're building up our problem-solving instinct. And what I mean by that is we're learning how to play around with some stuff with our background skills. Okay, we might not be that confident as we work our way through, but what we're going to do is we're going to train our gut instinct with the tools we have to be able to lead us down some good paths as we try to solve some problems. So what you see on the screen right now is our first 3 problems that I'd like you to go through. So you see that the instruction for those 3 problems is to simplify. I would like you to simplify each one of those expressions. Okay, so what I'd like you to do, simplify each one, pause it now. Okay, and we're back. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump in and examine each one of these expressions. Okay, so I'm hoping that we were pretty comfortable to go through and simplify the first one. We noticed that we have 3 terms, and we are asked to subtract each one of those terms. However, we notice that we've got a little bedmass situation within each term. I have my multiply on those first 2 brackets. So in order to follow bedmass, I need to make sure that I simplify the first term. So we're going to expand in that 6. I can simplify the second term by expanding in my -5. Be very careful on your signs there. And then simplify the last term by subtracting every part of that expression. So I would have guessed that a pretty common first line would have been to go through, expand your brackets, to then be able to go and collect like terms. So we can go through, put together all of our x's, and we should get a 10x. And if I simplify my constants, then I think we should get down to a -30. Oops, -24. And as I said, this is about knocking off rust. So hopefully we feel like we're getting back into the swing of things. Now, if after going through the first one, you feel more comfortable to tackle the next 2, then feel free to pause the video at any time and attempt problems on your own. You want to. So what we're going to do then is we're going to jump into B. I'm assuming you're coming along with me. Now, I think the only bad part in B would be if we looked at that squared and we almost scratched it out and wrote down another 2x minus 3. Yes, that's what an exponent 2 means. It means multiply by itself. However, I would hope that we know an algorithm, a process, to be able to expand that white expression all in one step. If you wrote down the red extra bracket, that extra factor, then that's okay for today. Again, we're just getting back in the swing of things. However, I would hope that all of us would be able to go through and deal with the blue in one step. I'm going to highlight a couple things. We should be good to look at that first term and square the first term. So there is my 4x squared. Now we should be good to go through and put the product of the 2 inside terms. So our algorithm then is going to say, now multiply the 2 terms together. So I'm going to multiply my 2x times my -3. That gets me a -6x. And now I double that to get me my -12x. There's my middle term. We can see if we wanted to write out both binomials, that's why we double it, because we're going to have 2 of the exact same term. And now to get my last term, well, then I need to go through and square the last. And so if I square my -3, I get a +9. Watch out for your sign mistake. So as I said, hopefully we're going through and we are simplifying that all without ever writing down the second bracket. That I would really want to see for us to go through and simply know that algorithm and get enough practice with that algorithm. So again, square the first, then multiply them together and double it, and then square the last. Okay, hopefully that algorithm was pretty comfortable for us. And now we could jump in and play around with C. I am going to bet that I caught up with some people in terms of their comfort level, and maybe we need to take another shot at C. So if so, pause it now. Otherwise, I'm assuming you already have a solution for C, whether you're confident or not, and now we're just going through to check our solution. So we take a look at that big ugly expression, and I hope that we can recognize that we have two terms. Recall, terms are separated by addition and subtraction signs, so even though those terms are ugly, I only have two of them. So to add those two terms together, I need to follow BEDMAS, which means I need to simplify each of them first. Let's take a look at that first term. Notice the only really bad mistake you could make here would be to expand in your 2 first. If we expand in that 2, then we are completely ignoring BEDMAS, which means I need to do my exponent before I do my multiplication. So as long as we didn't multiply in, as I get rid of those arrows, that 2, then we should have been good. So my first line may be this, and now I can square my perfect square. Square the first, multiply them together and double it, square the last. Okay, maybe I do the same thing with the last term. My suggestion to you, anytime that I see 1, 2, and 3 factors, so that is 3 things separated by multiply, take a quick peek, pull off the blinders a little bit, and see what makes up those 3 things. Don't just necessarily or blindly multiply them in the order that they're presented. We should be good that if I have 3 things multiplied together, well then I could go 2 times 3 is 6, times 4 is 24. Or instead, maybe I go 2 times 4 is 8, then multiply that by 3. Or maybe I go 3 times 4 is 12, then double it. That is, if all we have is separated by multiply, it never matters what order we multiply in. So you pick the order that we multiply best. And when you take a look at that last term, I think a lot of us would like to keep the monomial out in front. For 2 reasons. In this instance, 2 reasons. The first one is, I don't think I want to multiply my 3 in and then have to expand my brackets, because that's just going to make my numbers bigger. But secondly, look at the 2 binomial factors. Notice that we have the same terms inside each bracket, but with different signs. We have conjugates. Now, I think I might have had some people that didn't use the term conjugate, but instead they tried to call those 2 brackets a difference of squares. Just notice, it's not a difference of squares. When you multiply 2x minus 1 times 2x plus 1, then you get a difference of squares. Look, difference, perfect square, perfect square. They are a difference of squares. However, when I have 2x minus 1 times 2x plus 1, those are conjugates. Okay, I have that blue line, And my guess is that blue line looks an awful lot like question A. Let's simplify that expression then. For most of us, we're probably expanding in that 2, then expanding in that 3, and maybe spending one more line then cleaning up that expression. I would have bet that I would have a lot of that looking on your page. Okay, hopefully that gets us through a little bit of review of expanding some brackets, collecting like terms. In other words, we're simplifying some expressions. Okay, let's jump into something a little bit different next.